Imagine, um, imagine for a second that you are building a house with someone. You know, you're pouring the foundation together, you're picking out the paint colors, you're signing that massive 30-year mortgage.
Right, the whole white picket fence dream.
Exactly. You are sharing your home, your heart, your quiet daily routines. You sleep next to this person every single night. And then one day you look at the architectural blueprints, you look at the property deed.
Yeah.
You look at the framed photographs sitting on the mantelpiece and you realize something absolutely chilling.
Something that just shatters everything.
Yeah, you realize you don't exist. Like, in their version of the world, you are a ghost. You are entirely invisible.
I mean, it is a profound existential terror when you think about it.
Yeah.
You have a physical presence, you have legal standing, in the eyes of the government.
Right.
But in the social and emotional reality of your partner's actual broader life, you have been completely erased. You were reduced to, well, a phantom haunting the very marriage you helped construct.
A phantom. Man, that is just, you don't exist. You are a ghost. And that is the exact chilling reality a woman discovered 4 years into her marriage.
It's just gut-wrenching.
It really is. It's a story she recently detailed in a viral, deeply distressing anonymous confession online. And the title of her post alone, I mean, it just stops you dead in your tracks.
Oh, absolutely.
So today, we are diving straight into how an intelligent, capable person gets slowly, methodically erased from their own life.
And we are going to systematically unpack this. We're looking at the weaponization of the K-1 immigration visa, and we'll explore why the ultimate psychological trap is so often, wrapped up in the convenient package of a quote-unquote cultural misunderstanding.
Yeah, that cultural excuse is huge here. And we want to frame this deep dive not just as an autopsy of one woman's heartbreak, but as a critical psychological roadmap for you, the listener.
Exactly. Because by meticulously evaluating the timeline of this relationship, from the very first digital interaction to the devastating final ultimatum, we can identify the specific mechanics of emotional manipulation.
Right. We're looking for the red flags.
Yeah, we need to isolate the hidden identity aspect of this narrative. We need to examine the profound emotional toll of living as a secret. And we will dissect the psychological red flags of isolation and control.
Because if you, or maybe someone you care about, are navigating the complex, often really murky waters of a long-distance relationship or an international romance,
or honestly, any partnership where there's a massive gap between the beautiful promises being made and the actual reality being delivered.
Yes, exactly. If you're in that, this deep dive is for you. We need to look closely at the architecture of a double life.
Because emotional manipulators operate on predictable frameworks. They leverage physical distance, the passage of time, complex cultural dynamics. They use all of this to build walls around their deception.
And understanding the psychology, like the literal neurobiology of how they construct these walls, that's the only way you can learn to spot them before you get locked inside.
Precisely.
I gotta say, I found myself utterly astonished reading through this source material. I mean, the sheer emotional burden this anonymous narrator is carrying, it just radiates through the text.
You can feel the bone-deep exhaustion in her words.
Oh, yeah. It's the desperation of someone who is just screaming into a void.
Yeah.
So I want to trace the origins of this void. Let's look at the foundation of this connection.
Let's rewind it to 8 years ago.
Right. According to the Post, this entire 8-year saga began in what felt like an incredibly safe, supportive space for two highly vulnerable people. She writes that she met her husband 8 years ago in a Facebook group.
And the crucial context here is their emotional state at the time.
Yeah, she was navigating a really painful divorce in the United States, and he was simultaneously going through a divorce across the globe in India.
Right, and the environment where a relationship takes root really dictates the shape of its growth.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that shared context of parallel divorces provides an incredibly potent, accelerated foundation. We had to deeply contrast this initial, seemingly supportive friendship with the high-conflict, toxic marital state she finds herself in today.
It's like night and day.
Totally. Because in those early days, what they had was a foundation of shared trauma. They were both in a state of emotional freefall, essentially looking for a parachute.
It makes me think of an analogy. I call it the lifeboat analogy.
Okay, I like that. Walk me through it.
So when your ship is sinking, which is exactly what a divorce feels like, right? Your entire life, your future plans, your identity, it's all going under the freezing water.
Oh, absolutely. It's a total loss of stability.
Right. And someone suddenly reaches out a warm hand from a passing lifeboat to pull you in. I mean, you don't stop to ask for their credentials.
Yeah, of course not.
You don't run a background check. You certainly don't interrogate them about their long-term conflict resolution skills. You just hold on for dear life because you are so incredibly grateful to be saved from drowning.
Yeah. Pure survival mode.
Exactly. So I'm looking at this early dynamic and wondering, does trauma bonding early on like this permanently alter a person's ability to spot deception down the road?
Well, I want to clarify something crucial there because the psychological terminology is really important.
Oh, okay.
What you are describing with a lifeboat analogy is shared trauma bonding over a mutual hard time. True trauma bonding is actually a different mechanism entirely, and it comes much later in an abusive dynamic.
Oh, wait, really? I always thought those were the same thing.
It's a common misconception. A trauma bond occurs when the brain becomes chemically addicted to the cycle of an abuser punishing you and then rewarding you with just enough intermittent affection to keep you around.
Oh, wow. Okay, so the punishment and reward cycle is the bond.
Exactly. What happened here in the beginning, this shared lifeboat experience, it merely laid the incredibly fertile groundwork for the actual trauma bond to take root years later.
That distinction is fascinating. Shared trauma lays the groundwork, but it isn't the bond itself. So how does that groundwork actually function in the brain during those early months, like the late-night messaging and mutual support?
It functions through the lens of psychological grooming. Now, society often associates the word grooming strictly with dark criminal behaviors,
Right, like internet predators.
Exactly. But in the context of adult emotional manipulation, grooming is simply the meticulous, patient construction of a massive reservoir of unshakable trust.
Or a reservoir of trust.
Yes. Think about it. When a human being is enduring the severe stress of a divorce, their cortisol levels are through the roof, their social structures are collapsing, they feel inherently rejected.
It's just constant fight or flight.
Right. So when a new person steps in, actively listening to them cry, validating their pain, offering a consistent, safe presence every single morning and every single night.
The brain just eats that up.
The brain floods with oxytocin and dopamine. It literally rewires itself to categorize this new person as the ultimate safe haven.
Okay, so because he was her safe haven during the worst chapter of her life, her brain files him permanently under the category of, like, rescuer.
Precisely that. And once someone is neurologically categorized as your rescuer, future manipulation becomes exponentially harder for you to process.
Because it contradicts that core file.
Exactly. Years later, when this man begins executing behaviors that are objectively cruel, deceptive, or harmful, the narrator's brain experiences massive cognitive dissonance.
Like a short circuit.
Yeah. Her conscious mind sees the cruelty, but her subconscious mind is screaming, "He can't be hurting me. He's the man who saved me from the freezing water."
Wow. That initial shared trauma acts as an impenetrable smokescreen.
It completely obscures the fundamental incompatibilities and massive structural red flags that would be obvious to anyone on the outside looking in.
And they had 3 entire years to thicken that smokescreen.
3 years is a long time to build an illusion.
Right. For 3 years, they maintained a long-distance digital relationship. They were communicating across the globe, separated by oceans and time zones.
Just screens and text bubbles.
Exactly. I keep thinking about the curated nature of that reality. When your entire connection exists through a screen, you only see the angles the other person wants you to see.
Oh, long-distance relationships, particularly those rooted purely in digital communication over a span of years, they create an environment where both parties can exclusively present their idealized selves.
They never have to be messy.
Right. The friction of daily reality is entirely absent. You do not witness how they speak to a customer service representative when their flight is delayed.
Yeah.
You don't see how they react to a sudden financial stressor or a flat tire or even just the mundane reality of a messy living room.
You just get the highlight reel.
Exactly. You receive an intense, highly concentrated dose of emotional intimacy, completely divorced from the practicalities of human behavior.
Which perfectly sets the stage for a massive leap of faith.
And that's exactly what she did.
Yeah, after 3 years of building this digital utopia, she makes the decision to travel all the way to India to meet him in person, to see if this glowing screen could translate into a living, breathing reality.
And this is where the timeline really accelerates.
Dramatically. The timeline she provides in the source material goes into overdrive at this point. Over the course of a single year, she makes 3 separate international trips to see him.
3 trips to India from the U.S. in 1 year.
Yeah. And during that frantic year of travel, he proposes. They initiate the K-1 fiancé visa process. And 4 years ago, which brings us to the midpoint of this 8-year saga, he officially moves to the United States.
We really need to pause and examine the immense psychological weight of cross-continental travel like that.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
Right. Taking 3 trips to India in 1 year requires a staggering investment. I mean, we're talking time, money, physical energy, and enormous emotional bandwidth.
Thousands and thousands of dollars, easily.
Absolutely. And this introduces the concept of the sunk cost fallacy.
Ah, okay. Meaning she's invested too much to quit.
Precisely. By the time they are initiating the visa process, she has invested so much of her life into making this work, her brain will violently resist any information suggesting the investment was a mistake.
It's like doubling down at the casino.
Exactly. You don't want to walk away empty-handed.
Well, I want to dig into the actual mechanics of this visa process because this is where the structural red flags begin flying at full mast.
The K-1 visa is a very unique psychological environment.
Yeah, for those unfamiliar, the K-1 visa comes with a highly specific, rigid legal condition. The foreign partner enters the U.S. and they have exactly 90 days to legally marry the American citizen.
90 days. It's an incredibly short window.
Right. If they do not marry within that 90-day window, the foreign partner must leave the country. Our narrator notes that they complied, rushing into marriage within that 3-month time frame.
Which is what everyone does on that visa.
But I'm stuck on this artificial timeline. Why didn't her alarm bells go off? Why didn't she step back and say, wait, this is too fast?
To understand that blind spot, we have to look at the psychological pressure cooker created by the United States immigration system.
Okay.
The K-1 visa forces an entirely artificial, frantic timeline onto a relationship. You transition from 3 years of curated online chats and a few weeks of vacation mode reality in India directly into a 90-day countdown.
It's a complete shock to the system.
Yeah, you have 90 days to integrate your entire lives, figure out cohabitation, and sign a legally binding marriage contract.
Let's look at the transaction happening beneath the romance here, because this is the part that really bothers me.
Let's break it down.
Okay, so he gets to move to the U.S. He marries her in a frantic rush to secure his legal status and his green card. But, as we're about to discover, he leaves his entire past life in India firmly shut away in a lockbox.
Completely segregated.
Right. How does a person navigate a scenario where their partner is gleefully accepting all the legal and geographic benefits of a marriage while simultaneously refusing to integrate their actual lives? Is this a cultural misunderstanding or a highly calculated transaction?
I would lean heavily towards a calculated transaction. The dynamic of the K-1 visa inherently creates a profound power imbalance, and manipulative individuals use this bureaucracy as a shield.
A shield? How?
Well, when an American citizen sponsors a K-1 visa, they must sign a legally binding affidavit of support.
Right, the financial guarantee.
Yes. They are proving to the government that they can financially support the immigrant partner, ensuring the partner does not become a public charge. This bureaucratic requirement forces the American partner into the role of the provider, or the savior.
So she is so busy focusing on the immense responsibility of bringing him over, submitting the paperwork, providing the financial guarantee.
She's managing a massive legal project.
Exactly. She misses the forest for the trees.
The urgency of the 90-day window is the enemy of critical thinking. When a couple is rushing to meet a government deadline, navigating medical checks, embassy interviews, and courthouse schedules, they routinely bypass the necessary, deeply uncomfortable conversations.
Of core values.
Core values, familial integration, and long-term emotional goals. They just don't have the time to sit down and debate these things.
The clock is ticking.
Right. The American partner feels a profound sense of duty to get the immigrant partner across the finish line. And the manipulator leverages this duty, securing immense legal, geographic, and economic stability.
While dodging the requirement to offer any true emotional transparency or partnership in return.
Exactly. It's a one-sided deal wrapped in government paperwork.
But the most alarming piece of this puzzle wasn't just the rushed wedding to beat the immigration clock. It was the secret, shadowy condition attached to this marriage before they ever even exchanged rings.
This is where it gets truly insidious.
According to the narrative, before the wedding, they had a sit-down discussion. He stated that he would not tell his children about her.
His own children.
Yes, his children, who lived in India with his ex-wife, were 7 and 10 years old at the time. And the reason he provided for this monumental secret, he claimed it was, quote, due to his culture.
There's that weaponization of culture we talked about earlier.
Yeah. He promised he would slowly introduce the idea and explicitly guaranteed he would fully introduce her to his children by the end of their second year of marriage.
We really need to unpack this because the weaponization of culture in cross-border relationships is a deeply manipulative tactic.
It is. But we should probably also acknowledge that cultural differences are real, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We must acknowledge that cross-cultural relationships absolutely require patience, understanding, and an immense respect for different traditions and familial expectations.
Right.
Cultural nuances regarding divorce, blended families, and remarriage in India are complex and can sometimes carry social stigma. It's not always simple.
Sure, cultural differences are a very real hurdle that many healthy couples navigate successfully all the time. But this feels entirely different.
It feels different because it is different. Culture is frequently weaponized by manipulative partners to maintain double lives and avoid basic relational accountability.
It's like an ultimate trump card.
Exactly. When a partner uses my culture as a blanket, unquestionable excuse to hide your very existence, they are actively exploiting your empathy.
Wow. Exploiting your empathy.
Think about it. They know that as a Western partner, your greatest fear is appearing ignorant, intolerant, or disrespectful of their heritage.
Oh, you don't want to be the culturally insensitive American.
Right. So you swallow your own fundamental needs, the need for basic dignity, public acknowledgement, and integration in the name of being the good, understanding, culturally sensitive partner.
It's a brilliant conversational trap. I mean, if she pushes back and says, no, you need to tell your kids I exist, she isn't just arguing with her fiancé.
She's suddenly positioned as fighting an entire ancient culture.
Right. She feels completely unreasonable. It's like he wanted a free trial of an American marriage without having to cancel his previous subscription in India.
That is a perfect way to describe it. A free trial without the commitment.
But I am fascinated by the specific timeline he offered. He promised to tell them by the end of the second year. 2 years.
Yes, the 2-year promise.
Why not 2 months? Why not 10 years? What is the psychology behind picking exactly 24 months? Is that a known tactic?
In the realm of emotional manipulation, 2 years is rarely a random number. It is a highly calculated pacing tactic utilized by serial liars.
A pacing tactic.
Yes, pacing is about managing the victim's expectations just enough to ensure their continued compliance. Consider the alternatives here.
Okay.
If he had told her, I will never, ever tell my children about you, you will be a secret until you die.
The shock would have been too much.
Exactly. The shock would have broken the trauma bond. It's too harsh a reality. She would have canceled the wedding immediately.
The deal breaker would be just way too obvious. And what if he had promised a short timeline?
If he had said, I'll tell them next month, right after we get married, the timeline is too brief for him to maintain the lie.
Oh, she'd be checking in on it.
Right. She would expect immediate action, and when he failed to deliver, she would hold him accountable before the marriage was deeply entrenched.
So 2 years is like the sweet spot.
2 years is the psychological Goldilocks zone of manipulation. It is long enough for the narrator to feel like a reasonable, mature compromise was made. It grants him 24 solid months of total freedom from accountability.
Wow.
But crucially, it is distant enough that he doesn't have to face any immediate consequences. He successfully turns what is actually a permanent structural secret into the illusion of a temporary transitional situation.
And agreeing to hide a marriage from a partner's children isn't just some quirky little compromise. It completely fractures the reality of the relationship from day one.
It's foundational distrust.
Yeah, children are not a minor peripheral detail in a person's life. They are the absolute center of a parent's world. By forcing her to agree to this, he is establishing a baseline where secrecy is not just accepted, but contractually required for the relationship to function.
By segmenting his children entirely away from his new wife, he is communicating a devastating unspoken message. He's saying, you are not part of my real family. You are a separate, compartmentalized asset in my life.
An asset. That's so cold.
And maintaining this illusion requires daily lies of omission to both the new wife and the children. This serial lying creates a cycle of persistent, inescapable relational instability. The marriage is built on an active fault line, just waiting for a tremor.
Well, let's fast forward past that 2-year deadline, because, surprise, surprise, he promised to tell them by year 2, but the narrative brings us to year 4.
The deadline was an illusion.
Right. The deadline has come and gone, blown past without a second thought. I want to look at how this quote-unquote temporary arrangement actually functions in practice year after year.
The logistics of it are staggering.
Because looking at the logistics, it is a masterclass in maintaining a shadow existence. She details that for the last 4 years, he lives with her in the United States for 9 months out of the year.
9 months here, 3 months there.
Yeah. Then he boards a plane and goes back to India for 3 months to be with his kids. His kids are now 11 and 14 years old. And yet, neither his kids nor his extended family have any idea the narrator exists.
It's unbelievable.
After 4 years of marriage, she is entirely erased.
The sheer psychological burden of living as a secret for years on end, it just cannot be overstated. For 3 months every single year, this woman's existence is essentially nullified.
She just ceases to be his wife.
Right. When he gets on that international flight to India, she ceases to exist in his reality. She has no access to his family, no access to his children, no window into his home country life.
She is profoundly isolated within the confines of her own marriage.
And this logistical setup perfectly aligns with the most common cycles of isolation and control found in abusive dynamics. He holds 100% of the power because he holds 100% of the information.
I am trying to wrap my mind around the cognitive load of maintaining this lie. Think about the phone calls for the 9 months he is in the U.S.
The daily interactions.
Think about the holidays, the birthdays, the mundane Tuesday evening FaceTime calls with his kids. They ask him, "Hey, Dad, what did you do today? What did you have for dinner? Who is sitting on the couch next to you?"
And he lies.
And he lies. Smoothly, effortlessly, every single day. If a human being can look at their 11-year-old child through a screen and lie to their face for 4 consecutive years, what kind of capacity for deception does that require?
It requires a terrifying capacity for pathological emotional detachment. To understand how someone manages this without crumbling under the guilt, we need a better metaphor for compartmentalization.
Okay, what do you use?
It is not just keeping his lives in different rooms of a house where sound might bleed through the walls. He has constructed a psychological submarine.
A psychological submarine. Break that down for us.
When a submarine dives, it relies on watertight bulkheads to separate compartments. If one section floods, you seal the heavy steel doors to protect the rest of the vessel.
Right. Keep the ship from sinking.
Exactly. In his mind, his life in India and his life in America are separate, watertight compartments. When he flies to India, he seals the bulkhead door to his American life.
He just locks it away.
He feels no guilt, no anxiety, because in that compartment, the American wife literally does not exist. The pressure from one compartment is never allowed to breach the other because he knows that if the realities ever mix, the whole submarine sinks.
But I mean, doesn't that require viewing the people in your life as completely disposable or disconnected from reality?
It requires deep narcissistic traits. A deeply narcissistic individual often views people not as integrated, complex human beings with their own inner lives and needs, but as separate, unlinked assets or appliances.
Appliances?
Yes. Think about it. The American wife is a highly functional asset. She provides housing, companionship, perhaps financial stability, and crucially, the legal visa status.
Right.
The children in India are a separate, highly functional asset. They provide his identity as a devoted father, his familial legacy, his standing in his home culture. In his mind, there is absolutely no logical reason for a refrigerator to interact with an oven.
Oh, wow.
Why mix them when keeping them perfectly separate serves his needs without any complication?
That is a chilling perspective. Everyone exists solely in relation to him, never in relation to each other.
Precisely.
But obviously our narrator isn't just sitting quietly in the American compartment accepting this. She realizes the 2-year promise was a lie. She rightfully tries to break this cycle of isolation. She demands that the truth be told.
She starts rattling the bulkhead doors.
Yes. But when she lays down a boundary, the husband deploys a manipulation tactic that is so dark it practically paralyzes her.
What happens next in the narrative is a textbook example of emotional blackmail, completely designed to manufacture a false moral high ground.
She writes that every time he prepares to leave for his 3-month stint in India, she attempts to hold the line. She tells him, "Don't bother coming back to this house until you tell them about me."
Which is a very clear, completely reasonable boundary for a wife of 4 years to set.
Exactly. But he never complies. She says he always provides a new excuse. He always needs, quote, just a little more time. He establishes a new arbitrary time frame, and then inevitably he breaks it again.
Moving the goalposts.
Moving the goalposts. But for the last 3 years, he has relied on one specific, seemingly impenetrable excuse.
The excuse regarding his teenage son's physical health.
Yes. For 3 years, his go-to defense is that his teenage son has been suffering from chronic stomach issues. The husband claims that if he reviews the existence of his secret American wife, it will cause the son to overthink.
Right.
And this overthinking will cause immense stress, which will in turn exacerbate the stomach illness. Therefore, to protect the innocent child's physical health, he simply cannot tell him about the marriage. His hands are tied by medical necessity.
If we examine the common excuses used by manipulative partners to maintain double lives, they almost universally rely on externalizing the blame.
It's never their fault.
Never. The narrative is never, I don't want to tell them because I enjoy the power of a double life. The narrative is always, my boss is too demanding, my ex-wife is too crazy, my culture's too strict, or my child is too sick.
It's always an external crisis.
They create a perpetual, unsolvable external crisis that permanently prevents them from committing to the truth.
And the impact of these recurring broken promises on the victim's trust is just absolute devastation. It destroys her ability to rely on anything he says, leaving her in a state of chronic anxiety.
It's deeply destabilizing.
But weaponizing a child's health? How does someone even navigate a scenario where their partner sets up a dynamic like this? You are taking a wife's valid request for basic human respect and wrapping it in a sick child's medical chart. It's an impossible trap.
It is the ultimate lose-lose scenario, and that is precisely why it is such an effective form of gaslighting.
Gaslighting, yes.
He forces the narrator into an artificially high moral stakes dilemma. Option A. She swallows her pride, accepts being a hidden, dirty secret, and suffers in silence.
It's just awful.
Right. Option B. She demands to be known, but in doing so, he frames her as a selfish, monstrous woman who doesn't care if she triggers a child's debilitating physical illness.
Wow.
How could she possibly fight that without feeling like the villain in her own story?
She starts to question her own sanity. She probably thinks, maybe I am being selfish. Maybe I should just wait until the kid's stomach feels better next year.
And that right there is the core mechanism of gaslighting. He is distorting reality to make her feel profound guilt for wanting something totally normal and healthy.
He's making her the bad guy.
He shifts the focus entirely from his massive multi-year deception to her perceived lack of empathy for his sick child. But we really need to look at the sheer hypocrisy of this excuse.
Oh, please do.
Because the body keeps the score, especially for children.
Okay, let's assume the teenage son actually does have stress-induced gastrointestinal issues. He is a teenager, his parents went through a divorce, and his father lives on the opposite side of the planet for 75% of the year.
Right. If that child truly suffers from anxiety-induced stomach issues, having a father who disappears to America for 9 months a year, who is living a massive secret double life, who is likely anxious, guarded, and watching his words on every phone call.
The kid is going to pick up on that.
Oh, that energetic disconnect is palpable. Children are incredibly perceptive barometers for truth. They intuitively know when a parent is hiding a massive portion of their reality, even if they don't have the vocabulary to identify what the secret actually is.
The secrecy is the poison causing the stress, not the cure protecting him from it.
Precisely. The father's fragmented deceptive lifestyle is highly likely contributing to the child's somatic stress, not shielding him.
But the manipulator will never acknowledge that reality.
Never. The sick child excuse is simply the ultimate trump card, played year after year to ensure the American wife's silence.
But silence can only be sustained for so long.
Right. Eventually the pressure bursts.
Yeah, we see this constant, agonizing cycle. She demands respect. He hands her a massive guilt trip about his son's stomach. She retreats in confusion. But eventually, the suppression inevitably boils over into open conflict.
It has to.
A person can only be handed a guilt trip so many times before the injustice of it all causes an explosion. The blog post details how the husband reacts when this conflict finally surfaces, and his reaction reveals the true depths of his manipulation.
The transition in his behavior from offering pathetic excuses to launching an aggressive attack is incredibly swift.
It's whiplash.
It really highlights how precarious his psychological submarine really is.
She writes that when she brings the issue up now, he no longer bothers with the stomach excuses. He just shuts the conversation down entirely.
The silent treatment.
He uses prolonged silence. He gets visibly angry. She details their most recent fight where the dynamic shifted completely. He accused her of acting distant.
Right.
He told her he is exhausted because she is always starting fights about this topic. And then he dropped the ultimate conversational bomb. He looked at her and said, "Just divorce me."
Just divorce me.
Yeah.
There is a tremendous amount of psychological warfare packed into those three words, particularly in the context of a trauma-bonded relationship. But before we unpack the ultimatum, we must analyze his use of silence, because society often misunderstands silence as a passive behavior.
Oh, that's a great point. People think of silence as just an absence of talking, like he's just avoiding the conflict by keeping his mouth shut.
Right. But in a high-conflict, manipulative dynamic, silence is never passive. Shutting down a conversation, deploying the silent treatment, stonewalling, these are highly aggressive, active measures of psychological control.
It's a weapon.
It is a weapon. When she asks for the truth and he responds with angry, impenetrable silence, he is actively punishing her for speaking up.
He's conditioning her.
He is conditioning her, much like you would condition an animal in a behavioral experiment, that bringing up this specific topic will immediately result in the agonizing withdrawal of his affection, his communication, and his presence.
He is literally training her to suppress her own needs to maintain the peace.
Exactly. And when the silence doesn't work, when she pushes through the stonewalling and demands an answer, he pivots to a highly structured psychological defense mechanism.
What does he pivot to?
He pivots to DARVO.
DARVO. D-A-R-V-O.
Yes. This is a crucial concept for anyone navigating a toxic relationship to understand. DARVO is an acronym developed by psychology researchers to describe the predictable behavioral script used by abusers when they are confronted with their own bad behavior.
Okay, let's break that down. What does it stand for?
It stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender.
Deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Let's look at exactly how he executes DARVO in this specific argument.
Okay, first, he denies her reality.
Right.
He shuts down the conversation, completely ignoring his 4 years of broken promises and lies. He refuses to acknowledge the premise of her grievance entirely.
He's just like, I'm not talking about this.
Yes. Second, he attacks her character. He accuses her of acting distant and always starting fights.
The classic pivot.
Notice how he completely divorces her behavior from its cause. He ignores the objective fact that she is distant because she has been hidden like contraband for 4 years.
Yeah.
He just attacks her reaction.
You're always starting fights. I mean, he's staring at the giant elephant he placed in the middle of their living room and yelling at her for tripping over it.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And finally, the most insidious step. He refuses victim and offender.
How does he do that here?
Through his anger and accusations, he magically transforms himself into the exhausted, long-suffering husband who is just so tired of dealing with his nagging, volatile wife.
Oh, wow.
He makes her the problem. The issue is no longer the husband is hiding a marriage and living a double life. The issue has suddenly become the wife is annoying, distant, and argumentative. He successfully plays the victim of the very crisis he meticulously orchestrated.
It is absolute madness. But the climax of this DARVO script is that devastating ultimatum. Just divorce me.
Yes.
When someone drops a bomb like that, what is actually happening in the brain of the victim?
To understand the power of that ultimatum, we have to look at the neurobiology of fear. Just divorce me is not a genuine logical invitation to sit down, divide assets, and draft legal separation papers.
No, it's a threat.
It is a nuclear conversational shutdown. When an emotional manipulator throws out the threat of total abandonment, it triggers an amygdala hijack in the victim's brain.
An amygdala hijack. That's when the survival part of the brain takes over, right?
Exactly. The amygdala, which processes primal fear and threat detection, instantly floods the nervous system with stress hormones.
Fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes. And this completely overrides the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logic, reason, and holding boundaries. When he says the word divorce, he forces her brain into a state of sheer primal panic. He shifts her focus instantaneously.
So her brain immediately snaps from, I need to logically argue for my right to be known by your family, to, oh my God, my primary attachment figure is abandoning me right this second. My life is over.
The threat of abandonment triggers our deepest survival instincts, especially when a trauma bond has been established over years of high highs and low lows.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
He knows with absolute certainty that throwing the D word out there will cause her amygdala to hijack her brain. She will drop her righteous demands, she will likely apologize for pushing him too hard, and she will scramble desperately to fix the relationship to restore her sense of safety.
He leverages her love, her fear, and her neurobiology against her to force compliance.
It's highly effective and deeply abusive.
And we can see just how brutally effective that tactic is by looking at the emotional aftermath she describes at the very end of her post. This constant state of panic, this cycle of rejection followed by gaslighting, has completely decimated this woman's spirit.
The psychological erosion she describes is profound.
Yeah, the emotional toll, detailed in her final paragraphs, requires our deepest compassion.
We really have to validate the severe trauma of long-term betrayal.
She lays her entire soul bare on the internet. She says she is heartbroken. She feels physically sick over it. She feels entirely unimportant. She feels used for a visa.
Just completely drained.
And she writes this one line that just gutted me, summarizing her entire existence. She says she cannot handle the feeling of being a dirty secret, but she can't stop fighting about it.
A dirty secret.
A dirty secret.
That phrase, a dirty secret, perfectly encapsulates how long-term systemic deception fundamentally erodes a person's core self-worth. It is a slow, agonizing psychological death by 1,000 cuts.
How does that erosion actually happen? I mean, how does an intelligent, successful woman who helped navigate the massive bureaucratic hurdle of a cross-continental immigration process end up internalizing the belief that she is a dirty secret?
It happens because human beings are deeply social creatures. Our sense of self, our understanding of our own value, is in many ways reflected back to us by our primary partners and our communities.
Like a mirror.
Exactly. When the person you love most in the world, the person you share a bed with, the person you legally brought into your country, the person you committed your life to, treats you like a shameful object that must be hidden away in the dark.
Your brain starts to believe it.
Your brain slowly begins to internalize that horrific message. You start to subconsciously believe that you are the shame. You begin to believe that you are inherently unworthy of being seen in the daylight.
So he is basically taking the shame of his own massive deceit and projecting it directly onto her identity.
He has transferred the immense weight of his moral failure onto her shoulders. And the long-term psychological effects of carrying that weight are severe. It creates a deeply fragmented sense of reality.
You mentioned she feels physically sick. That is a somatic symptom of betrayal trauma.
Somatic meaning the body is manifesting the psychological pain physically.
The body always keeps the score.
It really does. Her conscious mind might be desperately trying to justify his behavior, clinging to the fading hope of the trauma bond, but her nervous system knows it is under constant threat.
She's in a perpetual state of danger.
The chronic stress of cognitive dissonance leads to severe anxiety, gastrointestinal issues, insomnia, and exactly what she describes: obsessive, inescapable thought loops.
She writes, "I can't stop bringing it up. I can't stop fighting about it." I think people looking at this situation from the safety of the outside might say, well, if fighting about it makes you feel so sick and miserable, just start bringing it up. Just accept the arrangement and find peace.
But she physically cannot let it go.
All right. Why is she trapped in this loop of fighting a battle she seemingly can't win?
Because her psyche is literally fighting for its survival. I want to be incredibly clear about this, especially for anyone listening who relates to this obsessive need to confront a liar.
Okay.
Her inability to drop the issue, her constant fighting, is not a sign of her being a nagging or difficult wife.
Yeah.
It is a healthy, vital, desperate psychological defense mechanism kicking in.
Reframing the fighting as a healthy survival instinct is incredibly powerful.
Her intuition knows that this entire situation is fundamentally abusive. If she stops bringing it up, if she goes quiet and submissively accepts being a secret, she is essentially signing the contract for her own psychological erasure.
She'd just be giving up her own existence.
Her spirit is violently rejecting the lie he is forcing her to live. Every single time she picks a fight about it, every time she refuses to let the issue die, it is her subconscious screaming into the void, "I exist, I have value, I demand to be seen."
I demand to be seen. That is the core of human dignity.
Yes, it is.
So she ends her post, after pouring out all this pain, with a desperate 3-word plea to the internet. What do I do?
A very heavy question.
We need to answer her directly. Let's lay out the actionable, practical steps for her, and for anyone listening who might find themselves walking on eggshells around a partner's shadow life, just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
To answer what do I do, we first have to brutally evaluate whether this marriage is truly sustainable. And I must offer some very blunt professional guidance regarding relationships built on deception.
We need the blunt truth. Let's have it.
A marriage built on unilateral secrecy, persistent gaslighting, and an absolute contempt for a partner's basic human dignity is fundamentally structurally broken.
Broken beyond repair.
True love requires profound respect, and there is zero respect in hiding your spouse in a closet for 4 years. From a psychological and clinical standpoint, you cannot heal a relationship with someone who is actively, daily invested in deceiving you and protecting their double life at all costs.
So if a listener is in this exact spot, their partner just dropped the Darva bomb, blamed them for the entire mess, and yelled, "Then just divorce me," to trigger that amygdala, hijack what is the literal practical next move, do you call their bluff?
Yes, you must absolutely call their bluff. You remove the power of the ultimatum by refusing to let it trigger your fear of abandonment.
How does someone actually do that in the heat of the moment, when their heart is pounding out of their chest and they're in a total panic?
You accept the ultimatum theoretically, stripping it of its emotional charge. When he yells, "Just divorce me," you look at him calmly and you say, "If divorce is your only solution to providing basic honesty and respect in this marriage, then I accept your proposition. We can discuss the legal logistics tomorrow when we are calm."
Wow.
And then you turn around and you walk out of the room.
That requires an immense, almost superhuman level of emotional regulation.
It does. But it immediately short-circuits his manipulation tactic. You are demonstrating to him, and more importantly to yourself, that you fear being erased more than you fear being alone. You are taking your power back.
Once you walk out of that room, what are the actionable steps for setting boundaries and prioritizing self-care the very next morning?
First, I strongly advise this narrator and anyone in a remotely similar dynamic of emotional abuse to seek individual therapy immediately.
Notice you emphasized individual therapy rather than rushing to couples counseling to fix the communication.
This is a critical distinction. Do not go to couples counseling with an emotional manipulator who actively gaslights you.
Why not?
Couples counseling requires two people operating in good faith who want to solve a mutual problem. A manipulator will often use the therapy sessions to further validate their victimhood, charm the therapist, and learn new therapy-approved vocabulary to manipulate you more effectively at home.
Oh, that's terrifying.
You need individual trauma-informed therapy to deprogram the gaslighting, rebuild your shattered self-worth, and find your voice completely independent of his influence.
We also need to address the legal and financial reality of the specific situation. We touched on the K-1 visa earlier, and that is not just a romantic piece of paper. It is a major binding commitment to the U.S. government.
This cannot be ignored.
Yeah.
She must consult with both an immigration lawyer and a family lawyer immediately.
She needs to know where she stands.
She needs to fully understand her legal rights and, critically, her financial liabilities. When you sponsor a K-1 visa and sign that affidavit of support, you are on the hook.
Financially.
Yes. She needs professional legal counsel to understand exactly how a divorce impacts that affidavit, how to protect her assets, and what her options are if she truly feels she was defrauded for a green card.
Which is a very real possibility.
Protecting herself legally and financially is paramount right now because he has consistently shown that he operates on a purely transactional basis.
So the roadmap out of the shadow is clear. Call the bluff on the emotional blackmail, secure individual therapy to heal the profound betrayal trauma, and get aggressive legal representation to protect your future.
Step out of the psychological summary.
Yeah, step out of the submarine and start taking up space in your own life again.
Exactly. It is a terrifying transition, but it is the only path back to reality.
As we bring this deep dive to a close, we need to take everything we've explored today from this intense, harrowing narrative and crystallize it into a lasting takeaway for you, the listener. We've journeyed from the raw vulnerability of two people meeting online during a crisis through the frantic weaponization of the K-1 visa process.
We've unpacked the dark mechanics of how manipulators use cultural expectations and even their own sick children as impenetrable shields.
And we stared straight into the devastating reality of being a shadow spouse, trapped in a cycle of gaslighting and Darvu tactics.
This story serves as a massive, glaring warning regarding the red flags of long-distance and international relationships.
It really does.
It highlights a universal truth. If a person's beautiful words and promises consistently, repeatedly fail to align with their actual actions over a period of years, you must believe their actions.
Always believe the actions.
The actions are the reality. The words are just a smokescreen.
I want to leave you with a final thought today. A new angle to ponder that builds on everything we've unpacked about power, control, and secrecy.
Let's hear it.
Think about the concept of unconditional love. From the time we are young, we are taught that unconditional love is the ultimate, most noble relationship goal. We are supposed to love our partners through thick and thin.
Right, for better or for worse.
Exactly. But often, highly manipulative partners demand unconditional love from you, meaning they demand that you must love them regardless of how poorly they treat you, how often they lie to your face, or how deeply they hide you from the world.
They want all the grace and none of the accountability.
Right. But look closely at what they offer you in return. They offer a highly, ruthlessly conditional love, meaning they will only give you affection on the strict condition that you stay quiet, that you stay hidden in the shadows, and that you never, ever demand to stand in the spotlight of their real life.
That is a profound distinction. Real, healthy love is not a hiding place. It is an illumination. It brings you into the light.
So ask yourself, look at your own relationships, your friendships, your partnerships. Are you demanding the light? Or have you gotten far too comfortable surviving in the shadows, accepting breadcrumbs because you were afraid of the dark?
It's a question everyone needs to ask themselves.
Because you and this anonymous narrator and everyone listening do not deserve to be a ghost in the house you helped build. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the narratives you are handed, keep learning about the psychology of human connection, and never, ever let anyone treat you like a secret.